Sorry, I gotta sneeze. So when we log in, we get a log out button, so we're able to change our nav bar to say log out, and we go to this protected page. Now so we have our home. So now if we go home, we can see there's the user data. Go to our public page. Now we can go to our protected page because we're logged in. Clicking log out, I believe worked because in our Auth Provider, I might have changed this. Where do we? I'm a little confused. Okay, so I'm just trying to remember where we left off. So when we click log out, this is actually working. Why is this working? Oh, I'm calling this everywhere. Okay. So yeah, yesterday, oh yeah, we did do this yesterday. Sorry, I forgot about this. What I'm confused about is I forgot we had done this init middleware part, because this is kind of where we left off. We did this pretty quickly. I'm just going to comment this out. And I'm going to log back in. And now if I try to log out, now I get like an error. That shouldn't say registering user, that should say logging out. But I click the log out button and I'm getting like this, 404 not found. And if it's not that the route's not found. It's that if I scroll down into this, the error, it's the user was not found or was not logged in. So that's why it's giving back a 404. It's not because the route's not defined. It's because the route was defined, but then it tried to like destroy that user's session, but it wasn't able to find it. And the way we got around that was doing this init middleware call. So now if I have that, I log in, I can log out. Cool. Some other things to review with this. Let's just go take a look at the code and just kind of do a refresher on what we did as far as the code is concerned. So we have a Auth Provider. So this is going back to what we learned on Monday, where we're creating this provider that's going to provide data to all of our app and functionality. So we can go look at that Auth Provider. It's just using the context, the React context API. So we create some context. We also create a consumer, but we're probably not going to use this because we're going to use the auth context and the use context hook as well. And then we have our Auth Provider. Now this is just a functional component, where we're going to just like we would maybe want to do with just a normal component, we can create some state. For example, we want to have some user state. And then we want to have, we had 3 functions: handle register, handle login, and handle logout, to do all of our, those 3 functions. So we can create, this is essentially like the handle register. This is how we create a new user in our database. Login is how we're going to create a new session. So the user is already going to exist in the database, but we're going to create a new session, and that's going to allow us to get back a token so we can go to different, we can actually hit protected routes on the back end. So one thing I did change, I think, No, so yeah, if we successfully log in, we can go to the protected route. We can obviously go to whatever route we want to, but for now we're just going to that protected route. With the handle logout, one thing we do need to do here is we just, we kind of destroy session on backend. I can say like, I'll just say token on the back end. And then we also set our user to null. And I could switch this method so it says error occurred, logging out, user, error occurred. I got just these messages a little wrong, logging in, user. So yeah, so we have these three messages. We have the user, state, and then we can just pass this down to our provider. So we can spread out over all of our user props. Then we can create our own, like we created this authenticated helper that's just really checking to see if the user is null. That's kind of how we're determining if we're authenticated. If we have a user, that means we've successfully either our register was successful, because that's where we're setting the user, or our login was successful, because we set the user there as well. And yeah, so that's our provider. Some other things that we can look at is our app.js, just to kind of review. So we have our routes component, and then inside of there we can, wrap our React router routes. So we can, if we want to have like a layout component, we can do it like this, where we create a route component given an element. Notice it doesn't have a path, it just has an element. And then if I look at the layout component, I can throw in whatever I want here. Here we're doing a nav bar. And then I can throw in the outlet component. And that outlet component is going to render, whichever route we're matching. So this is a way and this is the way we created our shared, what is it, shared nav link at a nav bar at the top. So every page is going to have the nav bar. And then remember the outlet. Let's do this really quick. Outlet here. Now the outlet's just going to be like the given component that we're actually where the route matches.
What's the reason that you would do the outlet rather than just creating a navbar component?
I could. So what I mean, I could do this. I could come in, do a nav bar. So copy all of this. Where's my layout? So I have a nav bar component. I'm just going to do this really quick, so you don't have to try to copy this. So there's my nav bar. I got rid of the outlet and that div. And then I could probably just come in to my app.js, get rid of this element, and I'll just wrap this like in a fragment or something. And do like my nav bar here. I didn't export it. I need to import this nav bar. Like that. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that. That works. See, same thing, it's working. So it's really, it's not like a huge deal either way. I think this way would be fine. The way I did it like this is, I think it does a couple things in my mind. First of all, this is really nitpicky, and I think it's not even that big of a deal, but I think it makes this my app.js. It really, now I'm adding other stuff than just like my app here, because what I might want to do, that I did in my layout is I want to add some styling. So, okay, well, now I need to add a div around my routes and do some styling, because that's what I did in my other one. Margin, like, I don't know, let's just do like whatever background. I just want to give this some style. So now my app.js, it's kind of having some more functionality than just rendering these routes. It's got like a navbar, it's got some styling, but it works. And it's, like I said, this is not a big deal. If you did it like this, that'd be fine. The reason that I might do this, and this is actually like, that's how we would have done this with React Router 5. This is actually kind of like a new feature of React Router 6, to give it this route element layout, where you can wrap it like this. And I think what that does is this cleans up my app component. So now my app component is just routes. And then I can just say, oh, all of these route components inside of this one that has the element are going to be wrapped by this layout component. And then my layout component, that's like, okay, this is the component that's wrapping all of those routes. So it's kind of like a small, like I'd say, style choice that's not a huge deal, but it's kind of keeping, it's nice when you can keep your components or your functions or anything with code. You keep the functionality of that code to like one thing. So now the functionality of my app component is really more about just setting up the routes. The functionality of my layout component is the layout of all my app. I mean, I could also, what I might want to do is, since I created that navbar component, I could maybe do my navbar right here. I could do that as well. But I'm not going to do that because that's going to take a second to refactor. Is that kind of, and that I might, if my navbar starts to get more complicated, I probably would move that into its own component, but I'd still render that component in this layout component. but definitely not a huge deal either way. How you choose to do it. There's other ways to do routes. This is, probably this way right here, I think is honestly like, it's not the way I would end up doing it. There's other ways to like kind of work with React routers, especially when your routes get more complicated and you have nested routes. But I think for now, this is just an easier way to understand it. And then once we understand how that layout, how this element works, I also think it helps. The other reason I'm doing it is because it's some consistency, because now we're doing the same thing with our require auth. We're kind of using the same method where we can now have a route, that's wrapped with this require auth component. So any routes inside of here, they're going to get the layout. They're going to be wrapped in that layout component, but then they're also going to be wrapped in this require auth component. And so any routes we want protected, we can just throw inside of this require auth, route component. Because when we look at our require auth, what we can do is we can do some checks, and we're going to add to this file some more checks. But we can, since this is just a React component, we can grab our auth from our use context, and we can then check to see if we're authenticated. If we're not authenticated, then we can have this component navigate us to the login screen or to the home screen. Whatever you choose, wherever you want to go. If we are authenticated, so here we are authenticated. Then here we can just, I really don't need, I probably shouldn't have this hello email. Here I can just return the outlet, which is going to be, the route. Under the route. Yeah, and if this, this is a nice change, I think. If you go look at the old Neo notes on how we did authentication, we made there's two things we're kind of changing there. We made a protected route component, and then we also have like this fetch user component. I think that were two confusing components to students. I think this way makes a lot more sense. So you can look at the Neo notes from last cohort and kind of try to see if you can follow along how that works, but I think this is definitely an improvement. So I think that's pretty much, our page, what we did yesterday. Some other things we did yesterday was like our login forms and our registers. Not much new going on here. One nice thing I think that we're going to start doing is we're able just to grab these like handle logins or handle registers or whatever functions from our context. We don't have to pass them down as props. So I think that's going to be really nice. The other thing we had to do with some of these functions is we had to pass this navigator from our React Router DOM. So in our provider, if we want to navigate, we could, we just had to pass that to the function so we could call it there. which is something we want to do like when we log in or when we register or when we log out. We want to navigate to different pages. So, cool. So I think that's about where we left off. I mean, that's what we did. And where we left off yesterday was with this bug. I mean, we did this quick fix in our index.js where we init middleware. And remember, that was looking at all, this is keeping track of the tokens. So when I log in, what happens is if this is successful, I'm going to get back some in the response headers. This comes back as the response headers. I'm going to get back like this access token, cache control, client. I mean, this one's the big one. This is the one we really care about, the token. So notice this token. I'm just going to copy this token so we can have it somewhere. It's like, so that's that token. And we have this init middleware function. So when I go click log out, let me clear this. When I click log out, go to my sign out. If I go to my request headers, so these are going to be what I send. So I'm sending a request to log out now. And notice that the access token is there. And notice how these match. So that's how it knows which user to find. It's because it knows this, it knows that user is this token. So that's why it's able to sign out. If I get rid of this init middleware, I log in, you know, I still get back the access token. So there's a new access token. These are going to change with every API call. And then I click log out. Yeah, but if I look at that sign out call and I look at the request headers, there's no token being sent. That access token is not being sent. So Rails isn't going to know what user that is. So that's that error. Right, that makes sense. There's something I have to send if I'm signing out. I need to send something to Rails to say, hey, this is the thing to sign out. Cool. So there's that. Let's look at another bug. So this is a new thing that we didn't do yesterday. So if I log in, I'm on my protected page and I hit refresh. Now I'm logged out. So refreshing is essentially logging me out, which is, I would say, is a bug. There's also going to be a bug that if I try to do an API call, so we still haven't really done anything with the backend as far as API calls other than the auth stuff. But we're going to see if I want to get some data from the backend where it's like a protected backend route, that I need to send that a token, and our tokens are going to change with every API call. So there'd also be another bug if I couldn't do another API call from here. So that's a really big bug, but this is what actually this init middleware will solve that, because that is going to handle all of this token stuff. But when I refresh, it logs me out. So what we need to do, so I kind of said that wrong. So this init middleware, because with every API call, we're going to be getting back a new token. And then with every Axios call, we're going to send a token. And this init middleware function is going to keep track of that. But what happens when we log in and we refresh? We're logged out, which is a little bit of a bug. So we're going to fix that right now. So let's go to our require auth page. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a use effect. Let's import this from use effect. All right. So what I want to do here, I want to check auth. I'm just going to write this function. I want to check if we're authenticated. So let's write this function. All right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say there's a couple things we need to look at. So first of all, if auth.authenticated, I'm just going to kind of write some of this out. So, and then I'll explain it. We kind of have to like throw the code here. So I'm also going to create a Boolean called checking auth. Set checking auth. By default, this is going to be true because when this component mounts, we need to check to see if we're authenticated or not. So here's one way we can tell if it's not checking if we're authenticated or not. It's really, it doesn't matter if we are or not. We just want to see if we are or not authenticated. This is what this function is doing. So this logic is going to be a little weird right here. So if we are authenticated, or we do not have a token. So we have a little question here. How do we see if we have a token? Let me show you. I'll just write the code and then we'll go look at it. So we're going to use something called local storage. And we're going to try to get access token. Maybe I should even call this check auth status. I don't know if that's a little more clear. And maybe I could call this checking auth status. That makes this a little more clear what we're doing here. So what I'm going to do is when we mount, I'm checking the auth status. And let's also do this as well, just so we can really see this, how I'm going to use this Boolean. So if we're checking the auth status, let's return a paragraph for now. And I'm going to just comment this out just for a second, just so I can kind of show you visually what's going on here. Need to import use state. That's fine. Bug. I don't even have my navbar right here. Let's see here. Oh wait, there's the error. Okay, sorry, I have some error. Local storage.get is not a function. Shame on me for not looking at my console. There's the error. Local storage.get is not a function. So I need to go back to my require auth item. That's what it's called. It's not get, it's get item. But here's kind of the gist of it. When we first go to like this protected route using the require auth, we're going to check if we're logged in or not. I mean, we're not doing the check right now, but that's kind of the concept, what we're doing. We want to see if we're logged in or not. So here's our first case. If we're authenticated, so if we actually, if we have a user, or if we don't have a token, then we're not, then we're done checking. If I refresh this. So I don't think we hit either of those cases. So we did not hit this if statement. Well, that must mean we do have an access token. So let's show you what local storage is. So local storage is built into like your browser. And look at that, in local storage, there's an access token. Local storage.get item access token. There it is. So we do have a access token. I can do this. I can do a local storage. I can call like a clear method. Now in local storage, there's nothing. So if I refresh, we're not authenticated and we don't have an access token. So we can navigate to login. Just some more. Local storage is something, I can use in JavaScript, but it's just a way I can it's just think of it as like a dictionary where you set key value pairs. So I can do a set item. You could set item, X, and then we give it the value no, sorry, need a comma, not a colon. And then I can do a local storage dot get item X. So it's just a way to store values in your browser. And if I hit refresh, I refresh my page. I could even quit Chrome. I mean, let's do that. Let's just quit Chrome. I'm going to quit Chrome, open it back up. There we go. Open this up. Inspect. Go to my console. Storage. That. Let's see. Storage dot get item. Let's see if we have X in here. That did destroy it. Damn it. I thought it didn't. I guess if I quit Chrome, that's going to clear local storage. But as long as I don't quit, I'm really surprised by that actually. Did I recreate it? It was there. Or did I redo it? I must have reset it. So I can get it now. Let me try this one more time. So I want to check this. Then command quit Chrome. Open it back up. There's something weird going on with this new Chrome setup. Inspect. On my console, local storage. Nope, I guess that destroys it if I close Chrome. Yeah. All right. But what it doesn't do is if I refresh, I need to look at that. That seems like a new behavior. If I refresh, that is not going to destroy it. Oh, I just reset it. So I can refresh. Open storage. There it is. I guess it's just like if you, I guess this is one of the difference. Like here, I close out of Chrome. Did that actually close it? Let's open up a new tab. Inspect. Storage, there it is. So I have to like force quit, or I have to like actually quit Chrome. That will delete it. But if I just like close the window and still have Chrome running, it will still be there. So this is the way I can like keep track of these values and have them be in local storage. I'm going to look into this, how we can get this stored even if we close our browser. That's actually something I would want to have. So that way, if you turned off your computer, it should still be there. That's really what we want, is if we turn off our computer, that value is still going to be there. But let's keep going with this logic. We can figure that out later. So if we get here, this means we have a token in local storage and are not off. So we need to check the token, see if it is valid. And we're actually going to do an Axios call for this. So I'm going to make this function async. Throw this in a try catch. And I'm also going to set a note like, this is something I want to look at. So I'm going to leave myself a to do local storage. It's clearing with Chrome. What does that mean? So just leave myself a note about, this local storage clearing this. But what I can do, so if we don't have a token, or if we do have a token, but we're not auth, we need to check the token to see if it's valid. Do const response equals await. And here's the method for this. It's an Axios .get / API / auth validate token. So if token is valid, it will give back the user. So we can go ahead right here and do our auth. We can get our auth context or our auth provider, and we can set user to res.data.data. I'll say this: if token is invalid, or error accrues, we come here. So if the token is not valid, it'll actually throw an error. So we'll catch that error. So, here we could say something like the console.log. We really don't even need to do this. Unable to. This is more just for like development. So you can see that unable to validate token. And that's really all that happens here. We're just unable to validate token. Then we can do a finally block. So once we get down here, what we can, regardless if token is valid or not, we have checked it. So right here, we can set checking auth status to false. So whether it's valid or not, we're done with the check, so we can set that to false. So this is kind of the process. If in process checking status, have a loading screen, or we could just return null here. So this needs to come first because we want to first check the token, see if we're valid. So we're going to check if this checking auth status is true. So if we're checking the status, just let them know. Once we're done checking the status, then we can, check if not auth. So once we're done checking the status, if they're not off, then we'll redirect them to, wherever the login page, wherever we decide to go. And then finally, once we get here, we've checked the token or we've checked the status and we know they are authenticated. So now we can just render the outlet. So now this require auth component, now it has this functionality of any route inside of here before it loads, it's going to check to see if that user is authenticated. And so if I go to localhost 3000, I go to login, I logged in. Go to my protected, I hit refresh. Can't perform. So we have a, did I forget? No, wait. So we're having an error here. Let's look at this. Oh, okay. I probably think I know what I did. In my require auth, I just want to do this on mount. So let's throw in a curly bracket and an empty array there. So let's log in. Going to clear my console. Going to hit refresh. So that tried. So if we look, so log in, refresh, go back to my console. Keep on getting these 401s, unable to validate token. So we're getting this error. So we're hitting right here, unable to validate token. So let's start again. I switch my index.js up. Log in. I don't know. I swear all I did in this require auth was that screwing it up. All right, I guess I need a slash. I mean, I should put a slash. I'm a little surprised why I'm not getting a 404 there. But now if I log in, I hit refresh. I don't know if you see it, it flickers really quick where it's saying it's checking to see if we're authenticated. Local storage. Here. Let's do this check one. Let's do this check two. So I'm on my public page. Notice if I go to my protected, it's going to check that even there, check one. But in that case, I haven't, it's not going to do the Axios call because I am authenticated. So we check one. And then it's going to hit this statement. So auth.authenticated, that's going to be true. So we can stop. When I hit refresh, so that's me, just me navigating to a protected route. Check one. If I hit refresh, that's going to go to the check two. Because when I hit refresh, that's going to reload my whole app. So that's going to set my user to null. And then in my require auth, I'm no longer be authenticated, but I am going to have a token. So then since I have a token, it's going to check that token. Does that process make sense? So now we can log out. So if I go to the protected, it's going to check one. Something I might want to do in it's not, I don't really have to do this in my require auth in my logout function. So if I go to, sorry, my auth provider, in this set handle logout, I could, if I wanted to, .delete or remove item, access token, if I wanted to remove it from the front end. But this, it's no longer, since I'm doing this Axios call, it's going to invalidate that token. So it's not going to be valid anyway. So I really don't have to do that. But I could remove the access token from my local storage. So this is kind of the gist of authentication as far as logging in, logging out. And on the React side of things, going to like a protected route. What time is it? Let's take a break when we get back, because we still actually haven't done anything other than signing in and signing up with our backend. So now when we come back, we'll kind of switch gears to working with the backend, and then we'll do some authentication stuff with our backend. So let's see. Let's take like let's do like a 15-minute break and come back at 10:50. I will push this up to GitHub. Are there any questions or anything? Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Share my screen. I was trying to mess around with this local storage thing. I'm a little confused because I now have X, that local storage that I just created. It is in there. So I need to do some little investigation on that. Not sure what's happening. It's a quick Google Chrome. Open it up. No. So this is a new browser. Inspect. Local storage. There it is. So yeah. And that's how I expect it to work. Local storage is something, it's a way to store data when, you close your browser or you turn off your computer. So it kind of seems to be working a little strangely, but I'll look into that some more. Let's just move on. So we've done a lot of stuff on the front end, but let's go and see how there, when I went to my protected route, that it automatically logged me in. So it has those values, it has those keys in local storage. It had that token. But let's look at this kind of as far as the back end is concerned. So what we're going to do for this lecture is we're going to be doing like a cat Tinder app. So we're going to be able to get users can log in and they can get a list of cats and they can like cats. So for this, we need to go do some stuff, create some models in the back end. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me just pull it up. All right. So I'm just going to go to my terminal. So we're going to create a model called cat. This is going to have a name, breed, I'll give it a registry, and a avatar. We do all stuff with images. Now I want to add something to our user model because we're going to keep track of, because a user is going to be able to like a cat. And so we're going to keep track of that. We could do an association here. I'm going to show you another way to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep track of the like cats in the user model or the user. So I'm going to do a Rails G. I'm going to create a migration to do this. We're going to add, let me make this bigger. We're going to add liked cats to user. If I type this right, it will actually create this migration file and the right code. So all I'm doing here is I'm adding a liked cats column to my users table. And it's going to be of type text. So what this is really going to be is we're going to have an array of IDs of the liked cats, but in SQL or Postgres and in the database, you can't actually store arrays in databases. So we're going to store the array as text. And we'll show you how to do that. So we can now do a Rails DB migrate. And just to look at those files, so we have our cats, just migration, just creating a cats table. Here's our migration where we notice how this was generated for us because of if you type out that Rails G migration and you are specific with it, it will add the right column. So we're adding to the users table like cats, which is a type text. And I could go check my schema because this is kind of like the source of truth that it's actually there. So I have a cats table, and in my users table, I have this like cats column now. That's a type text. Another thing I want to do is create a controller, API/cats. Cool. So that just gives us a cats controller. And if I go to my routes file, we're still going to do our namespace API. Do end. So we're going to do resource routing, resources for cats. We have this option to, if we don't want to do all the CRUD actions and we only want to do a couple ones, we can throw in the ones we want. So say for instance, we only want to do the index and update. Now this is only going to create routes for those two methods. So if I go to, and I need to start my server so I can see this. So there's that, added these routes. But if I go to localhost 3001 Rails info routes, so you can see I only have the routes for index and update created. So I'm going to go into my user model next. Now, and like I said, I'll just leave a comment here. You know, we want to treat, you know, the liked cats, you know, attribute as a array, as an array. But, you know, our database can't store it as an array. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to serialize it. We're going to serialize. You spell this right. Serialize liked cats, the name of that column. So doing this call right here, you know, what this does is this will store, you know, liked cats as text in our database, but we can treat it like an array in, you know, our .rb files. Or we can treat like an array everywhere else. Let's see here. And oh yeah, I need to say array. So we're also going to add a class method here. And this method is going to let's get some random cats. So let's do this def self dot random cats. All right, and I don't need that and end. So we're creating a little custom method here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check to see if I'm going to give this pass this in an array of IDs. I'm just going to do a quick check to see right here if it's empty, if this array is empty. And I'm doing it, it's kind of weird because we have these two question marks. Remember, this first question mark, empty, is going to return true or false if this array is empty. And now the second question mark, I'm going to do a ternary. If the array is empty, I just want to like hard code it to have something like a 0 in there. If not, I can use the array of IDs. And then I'm going to use my cat model, cat.where. So we're going to do a little SQL here. So next, not next week, but when we get back from Christmas break, we'll do some more advanced SQL, but let's just do a little check. So I can do this ID not in, and I'm going to throw in here a question mark. This is a placeholder IDs. Then I can dot order random. So just leave it, So there's a little mixing of rels and SQL here. So I'm going to pass this method some IDs, and then I'm going to use that array of IDs to find all the cats that are not in that array of IDs. We're also going to do another one, def self dot liked. Once again, I'm going to give this the array of IDs, which is just going to be an array of numbers. This is going to be very similar to the one above. It's kind of some inverted logic. So once again, I want to just see if this is empty. Give it 0 here. Not use this IDs. Then we're going to do the same thing, cat.where ID, except this one we're going to see if it is included in the array. So my user is going to have this, it's going to be able to keep track of this array of liked cats, which is just going to be some IDs. And then now we can get all the cats that it doesn't like and all the cats that it does like. I mean, I should maybe just call this unliked cats. That's a little more cute, clear. All right, so let's go to our user controller now. Or sorry, no, this is going to be in our cats controller. because that's the one we just created. Let's go through our cats controller. And we have a def index method. So we want to actually do some authentication. So what I'm going to do here, so for all of these routes, I want to do it before action. And I'm going to call this method authenticate user. Thing at the end. Save this. So this is of the device token auth method. And this is going to check if the token is valid. So here's how on the, so beforehand, we were just checking everything on the front end. Like, do we have a user? Should we render this route? Now this is going to be on the back end where the back end is going to be checking the token. So before we do this index method, it's going to authenticate the user. And then here we can render JSON. And we're going to do user dot random, or I call that unlike cats. I'm going to do this current user dot like cats. Let's leave a note here. If successful, we will have access to current user. Once again, current user is defined, like this is going to be defined by device token auth. So let's just kind of read this just as Rails is putting it out. I think it's pretty readable. It's nicely written. So we have a before action. We authenticate the user. Where we're going to check that token. And that's also, if that's valid, it's going to set this variable current user. So then we can do current user. We can grab the current user and grab that current user's like cats column. And then in our, we go back to our, user model where this method is defined. So we're just passing it that array that is being serialized. So we're storing the like cats as text, but we're going to serialize it to an array. So we can treat it like an array, here. Current user.like cats is going to be in an array of numbers. And then we can go find all the ones. We can go look at the IDs, and where they're not in that array of IDs, then we can pull those cats back. So let's just go try to test this in, what is it called? Postman. I'm going to see an issue here. Or actually, since this is just a GET request, let's just do it in the browser. Let's go localhost 3001 API /cats. That should hit our index method. Did I spell this wrong? So I'm getting the undefined method authenticate user. Let me see. Did I auth? I'm just gonna,
I think you're missing the T after the N in authenticate.
is that, okay, authenticate. There we go. So that's my first error. Authentic, spell that right. So now, if I try to do this API call, localhost 3000, API cats, I'm going to get this error. If I inspect, it's going to give me the type. Yeah, it's a 401. So this is a unauthorized. So I'm not signed up. Like now, so this is on like how because right now just doing this in the browser, this has nothing to do with what we did with React. I'm just trying to do an API call here and it's giving me an error. Because what we're doing is before each action, we're going to authenticate the user. So let's go into, let's also just while we're here, let's do our index, let's do our update method, just to kind of show you what we're going to do. So for this, we're just going to grab the current user. So now, I mean, a nice thing is we don't have to like find the user. We just have it because we're authenticating the user. So it's going to give us the current user. So that's going to be the logged in user who's making this request. And this one we can grab the liked cats column. And for this one, we'll just expect like a params, ID. And we'll convert that to an integer. And then we'll do current user.save. So here we add ID to array. Save to DB. Cool. And let me just give you a seeds file for this, for the cats. So we have some data to work with. Yeah. I forgot a double quote right there at the very end. And then for the rest of this stuff, since I only really want one user, so I can just comment that out. That wouldn't work anyway because that's not a unique email. So I'll just comment that out. So now we have a seeds file that's going to create 20 cats. It's using Faker. So let's try doing a rels db seed. Just do a quick test, rels console cat.all. Have some data in there. So there's kind of the steps on the back end. It's authentication with the back ends are going to be a lot easier. We just have this one method, authenticate user, and then we also have current user, which is just the current logged in user. So now we can go ahead and go to the front end. So let's come into our let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and in our app.js, let's make our home component a protected route. So this one we need to be auth now to go view this home component. Something we might need to change is, now that that's here, in our require auth, you might have it, so in your require auth.js, we want to make sure if we're not authenticated that we don't send them to the home, because this will probably create an infinite loop or something. So if we're not authenticated, let's just take them to the login screen. Error occurred logging out. Start my server. So if I try going to my protected route, that just takes me to the login screen. And now since home's a protected route, if I try to go there, that takes me to the login screen. But now I can go home if I'm logged in. Cool. All right, so let's just go to our home component and let's just do this here. I'm going to get rid of these links just because we don't really need them. I do kind of like having this stringify here just for debugging, so I'm going to leave that here for now. Maybe wrap it in a code block. See if that formats it a little better. Nope. Not pre. Let's leave it as a code. Okay. Cool. So what I'm going to do here, this is where I'm going to grab the cats. I don't need this navigate anymore. So I guess for now, I'm going to get rid of all the stuff I don't need. So I'm going to do a use effect. We're doing const. Sorry. Let's actually grab some state as well. Use state. Because this is where we're going to do our Axios call to grab the cats. So we can grab cats. Set cats equals use state. Set that to an empty array. We can do our use effect. This will just be on mount, so I'll put the empty array in there. Do my try catch block. Actually, in this use effect, I'm just gonna call get cats. Well, so I like to also define this. Okay. Then down here we can do my const get cats. This will be async. Do my try catch. All right. Let res equal axios.get /API/cats. I'm just going to leave a note. You know, the access token is getting sent here. The device Axios, that's kind of keeping track of that. So we are sending a token with this call. That's how it's going to do the validation, that authenticate user in our controller. Then we can do a set cats res.data. And then if this doesn't work, we'll just do like a alert error in cats. Cool. And for now, let's maybe also just do down here is stringify cats, just so we can see if this is, you know, this might be a good place to test if this is working. So make sure your Rails server is running and your React server is running. Let's import Axios. This is a little hard to read, so I can maybe just do like an HR right here. So we have users, we have my user, and then we have the light cats. Or sorry, I guess this is the unlight cats. Just that data. A little messy, but it's working. And just as like kind of a demo, you know, if I move, let's go ahead and say, let's move, you know, home out of this require auth. Refresh. Yeah, so now if I go home, you know, I'm not authenticated. Let's refresh. See, now I'm not getting, I'm trying to get the cats, but I'm not authenticated right now. So I'm getting that 401 error. You know, if I was logged in, then that would work. But let's go ahead and throw this. If I'm logged in now and I go home, now I can grab the cats. So we're kind of doing this protection on two ends here. We want to, first of all, just kind of protect the routes on the front end where you have to be logged in. So we're kind of doing that checking. So, you know, that way we can't, if we're not logged in, let's log out. If we're not even logged in, we can't even go to the home component on the front end. But then we also do a separate check in our cats controller, you know, where we're actually, this is where we're actually verifying the token that the front end sent to us, making sure they're logged in and it's the user. So there's two checks going on there. Any questions with that? So let's do a little something different with our index page. So our home page, kind of making this like, you know, in Tinder, it's like in Tinder or some of these other things, you might be on like an index type page, but it's not like you see a list. You just maybe see one at a time. So instead of showing like a list of cats, let's make a method, call this sample, to grab a random cat from our array. And then we're just going to show one at a time. And then we'll have like a like and dislike button. So let's do this. I'm going to say this, if cats dot length so if we have something greater than 0, let's pick out a random cat. So I want to grab a like if this was Ruby, I could just do like cats.sample. This is JavaScript, so I need to do a little more work. I need to come up with like the index. This is going to be I want this to be, I want to pick a random number from 0 to the length of the cats array -1. So what I could do is math.random. Actually, I don't have to do -1 because the length, if I do it this way, I'm going to floor. I'm going to math.random.floor. Actually, I did. Sorry. Math.random. I'm going to give it the math.random times cats.length. And then I'm going to floor this whole thing. So I got myself a little tongue twisted there. So I'm going to pick a random number. So remember, random in JavaScript returns like a number 0 through like 1. It's like a decimal number. So I'm going to times that by the cats.length. So that's going to give me a number between 0 and the cats.length. And since I'm flooring it, it's going to be 0, and then it's never actually going to, like if I have a cat's length of 10, this will actually never give me 10. The highest number this could give me is 9. So this will give me, if my cat's length is 10, this will generate a random number 0 through 9. Cool. And then I can just return, that's that index, and return that random cat. And if I don't have a cat, I can return null. Cool. So I'm going to so let's do this now just to kind of test. I'm going to stringify JSON, and then I'm just going to sample, call that sample method, which should just give me back one random cat. So that's a cat with ID 20. That was kind of nice because now I know I can get, that's getting the 20th cat. That's one. That, what a lucky test there that I got the first one and last one in the array. So yeah, whenever I hit refresh, it's just grabbing me a random cat. And yeah, we saw this method gave us both 1 and 20. So that's kind of lucky, but All right. So, but let's now make this a little neater. So what I'm going to do here is let's just call like a render cat method. Fonts render cat. So I'm first going to grab a cat with my sample method. And then I can say, I can first do like a check. If we don't have a cat, because remember, if our cat's not linked, if this is, if this is 0, this is going to return null. So if we don't have a cat, just do something like this, return no more cats. We've gone through all the cats. Else we can return let's just do a div for now, h1 cat dot name. Let's see what we have on here. Paragraph, we have a breed. Cat dot breed. Let's just stick with that for now. Cat's not defined. So here we have butterscotch, their dragon. Sweet. So now we're getting some of that, getting a little better with our UI. Let's create 2 buttons. Button. Let's do like and button. So we'll have a way to like or pass over a cat. So what I'm going to do here is do a on click. Upvote method. And then here we can do a downvote. And for both of these, I want to pass this the cat.id. So we have the ID. So now we need to define those 2 methods. Upvote. That takes an ID. And a downvote. For now, we can just console.log the ID. Let's make sure those are working. So if I click like, that's logging the ID. And if I click pass, that's logging the ID. So let's just start with the downvote. So we're not doing anything with the database. So this really doesn't have you know, any database interaction. But we still want to, we want to remove this from our UI. So what I'm going to do is for the downvote method, we want to remove cat from list. And then we want to, you know, get a new cat to show. So let's do that. So let's just call this const filtered cats. I'm just going to go over my cat state. I'm going to call the filter method. And go through each cat. And as long as the cat.id does not equal the ID, then keep it. Then we want to show a new cat. Well, let's just set cats. Filter cats. And that will trigger a re-render, which will re-trigger a render cat again. Which then we'll sample a random one off of our array and go from there. So let's just test that out. So if I click pass, you know, that switches the cat. I'm just should have about 20 of these. So once I get through all of those, then I have no more cats. But it's not actually doing anything with the database. I can refresh and get all the cats back. I think this is a good place to take a break. Let me push this up to GitHub. Cats and download. If there's no questions, you can, let's just meet back. Let's call it 11:55. Yeah, 11:55. That should be up on GitHub. I just pushed those changes up. Does anyone need anything slacked out, like a specific file? Okay, so let's get started. And something that let me just, before we go with this code, let me just say something you're going to want to do before you start with your homework is, I had kind of gotten to a spot before I started doing the stuff with the cat, like the cat model on the back end and the cat stuff on the front end, where I would have wanted to push that up to my starter project, GitHub. And then once you're ready, so once you feel like your starter project's at a good state, you work on like your MySpace app, you're going to want to push up to your starter project and then clone down to create your MySpace app from your starter project. So I kind of went a little far with this and like having some of the cat stuff being done. So here's what I'm going to do. I just kind of want to show you the steps to cloning down from your starter project. Okay, so I'm going to close out of here too. So, and like I said, I went a little far because now I have some cat stuff. I think it might not be that bad because I at least have some proof that my authentication is working front and back end. We've kind of done like one full GET request. So it's not horrible because, I can at least show that I'm able to get, a protected route or protected API called data back. But so let me go to my GitHub. Actually, I'm just going to do it like this because I don't want to find it. I'm going to CD back into here. I just want to grab my remote. This is the repo that I'm going to want to clone down from. So I'm going to do a git clone. And you don't have to do this because I'm just essentially going to clone this down into a new project. I just kind of want to show you the steps. So what I would do if I was starting a new homework or a new project, I would just clone down my starter project. And then I'm going to rename it, to whatever app that's going to be. In this case, we're doing Cat Tinder. So I clone down into that, so now I can CD into that. Cool. So, and we have talked about this, but if I do a Rails DB create, so that's one of the first things I'm going to want to do. I'm going to get this error. This database already exists. Now I could drop my database, but we're no longer going to do that because you might have like 10 projects that you're using that are cloning down this starter project. And if you drop a database, you're going to be dropping the previous project's database. So what we need to do instead is we need to rename the database. So I'm going to close out of this one. So now I'm in my Cat Tinder. And I want to rename this database. So that's in my config database.yaml. And I just want to find this, whatever you named your starter project, find that name. I can do a Command F and replace it to whatever you want your new name to be. Like I want this database name I would just say have it be named your project. I call this cat Tinder. Maybe I can even do like a W21. And then I can go through and go replace all those names. In my database YAML file. So now I can do a Rails DB create. And notice that's the name, what I just called it inside of there, the cat Tinder W21 development and test. So now in this project, just kind of the same old stuff. I can do it migrate. Actually, let's run a bundle first. Just to make sure we have all our packages installed. Then I can do Rails DB migrate and the DB seed. And I can seed into my clients. Install all the Yarn packages or the JavaScript packages. Another thing I'm going to want to do is a git remote -rm, or sorry, rm origin, or git remote.
Isn't it just remove?
Yeah, it's remove, git remote, remove, and then the name, just origin. And now I could do like a git remote -v just to check that it's gone. Like I don't have any remote there. Add. Then I could create a new repo. Let's do that right now. It's that GitHub. Where I have it up, the underscore. And now, I do a git remote -v. See, now that's pushing up to that repo. So now I have my repo set up. I can do a yarn start. Do a Rails S -p 3001. I guess I not push. I don't think I pushed that. But now if I go to localhost 3000, it occurred, so I got an error. Oh, because the reason I have an error is I don't have this user, because in my seeds file, I commented out that line. So I never actually created that user. That's fine. I can just go in here and do it right here. I can register the user now that I have my register form. And there we go.
So is the starter project basically then everything that you did before the cats part came in?
Well, my starter project has the cat stuff in it.
Right, but would our starter project be like everything before that?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want the cat stuff in there. So, and this is where you kind of got to keep track of it, because let's say, so now I have this cat Tinder repo, and I also have Another starter. I mean, these are kind of right at this moment in time, these are like at the same point code wise. But let's say, and this is where you need to be careful and kind of think about what you want to do. Let's say like with my starter project, you know, maybe after going through that process of cloning, maybe I want to add that in my setup, or sorry, in my README. So in my React router, or in this router 6 starter project, something I could add now is that I would think I would want for all my starter projects to have is in the README, you know, the setup instructions. So it's like clone this repo. I forget the remote. Get remote. And like even with this, I can like grab the remote. I can actually throw in this code right here, the actual code. So I'd say for this to clone this repo, you need to do, you know, a git clone. There's the wrap, and then like project name. Now I'm doing this like arrow brackets, like arrows project name, because I that's like generic. That's a placeholder. It's like I don't know what that's going to be. And you know, cd into project name. And then I can here write those instructions. Well, what did I have to do? You know, I had to rename database in database YAML file. Then we ran bundle. Create, migrate, seed, database. And you could actually go through and like write out these commands if that's a little more clear for you. You know, cd into client. We need to remove git remote. And we need to git remote. Right, did we do any other steps other than that? Then I would make that change to my starter project and push that up. So commit m readme. So now those instructions are up on my README, and they're not up on my cat Tinder. I open up, you know, my cat Tinder though. The README shouldn't look like this in the cat Tinder because this is my starter project README. So this should be cat Tinder about. So, and as you're going through this course, the rest of this course, you might find some things that you might want to add to your starter project. Maybe some libraries, maybe some functionality, maybe change it up. Like for instance, my starter project does not have like a React UI component framework. Maybe that's something I could add in the future. But I would want to do that to my starter project. But notice if I make the change, like these are two separate projects now. Like I want to try to, after you clone down like this, they're separate. So if you, like if I went into my starter project and added like a bootstrap framework, I'm not going to try to like pull that down on this app. So I would just have to manually do that again on here. So the idea is you want to get as much done with your starter project that you think is going to be reusable and then start cloning down. But over time, you're going to see you might want to update this and change stuff. So for your next projects in the future, they will have that. Does that make sense? So in my mind, my cat Tinder app is now, even though I cloned it from this project, it no longer like they're divergent. They're not going to have anything to do with each other. So yeah, now I can just go, I can close out of my starter project because all I really wanted to do was update the README to have some instructions for how to get started. So now I can close out of that and start working on the cat Tinder project. Let's go ahead and restart my server. And you can have multiple starter projects. You could have a starter project that has authentication. You could have a starter project that doesn't. You could have a starter project. Maybe you're experimenting with some of the component libraries. Maybe you have a starter project that is like using semantic and another one that's using Bootstrap. So you can create as many of these projects as you want. Or you can just start everything from scratch, and that's another good option too. Cool. So we have it working where we can pass over a cat. This is not doing any authentication stuff or any backend stuff. It's just UI. We do have a API call set up for the like button. So let's get that actually working. So just to review, if we go to our cats controller, we have a update method. Our update method, this is where we're going to handle the like. We just need to send this an ID of the cat that the user liked, and we're going to push that on to this like cats array. And then we'll save it. So let's go ahead and do that on the front end. So in our, we're doing this in our home.js. We have this upvote. We're logging the ID there. So let's make this an async call. So then we use Axios. Let's try catch. Let's put this on async. I'm just going to do an alert. Upvote. And then for my try, this is where we'll do our Axios call. So let response equal await. So this is going to be an Axios.puts API / cats. I need to interpolate this because we need to throw the ID in here. API cats. And then interpolate the ID that was given to this function. And where am I getting this route from? Well, it's from the resource routing that we did. Here, we have an update method, namespace with API. So that's going to give us a API / cats / :ID. And you could also check this out in the localhost 3001 Rails info routes. It's this route right here, a put request to API cats ID that will take us to that update method we were just looking at. This console .log res. Actually, we're actually not even getting anything back from this, I don't think. We don't even need to do anything with this response. It's not complete. I don't think, but there is a way we can test this. Just doing small steps. I'm going to hit refresh. Okay, so I can like a cat. I'm just going to inspect just to see if I get any errors as this goes through. Let's like. Okay, so that didn't switch out the cat, but since I'm logging over my user, it has this like cats array right here. I actually need to like refresh to grab that user again. But if I look inside of there, I can now see in this like cats column, the cat with ID 6 is in there. Like, and if I like sirloin and refresh, you know, now I have 2 cats inside of there. So this is saving to my database. But what I want to do is if I click like and it's successful, let's just move on to the next cat. So we could do just kind of exactly what we did here. You know, I could maybe reuse this logic. Instead of calling this downvote, maybe I just call this remove cat. So if we hit pass, we'll just remove the cat. But then on the upvote, I can just remove cat ID. Remove cat from UI. That's really what this is doing. I don't think I need to log the ID anymore. So now if I hit pass, that removes it. If I hit like, that also removes it. But if I refresh, I liked a couple cats, so I can see those now in the array. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to like 10 cats. I have 10 cats in there, or about. So something that should happen when I refresh. So if you remember, we seeded 20 cats. I have liked about 10 cats. So there should technically only be like 10 cats to look over because our index method using that like semi-SQL call is only giving us back the cats that are not in this array of IDs. So let's just kind of count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No more cats. Because my index method now is not going to give me these cats with these IDs. So I've liked 10 cats. So that means there's 20 cats that I have not liked yet. Just kind of review that. If you're a little confused on what this unlike cats method is doing, that's what it's doing. It's going through, we're passing it that IDs array, which is just that array of numbers, which are the IDs of the cat. And we're just going to get all the cats where it's not in that array. So we could set this call up right here, where we can, add another link and go ahead and show, maybe have a list of the cats that we've liked. So let's do that. I'm going to do this as a JavaScript page. So I'm going to call this mycats.js. This one we're going to want use state because we're going to do an Axios call and use effect on mount. First, before I get ahead of myself, let's just render this component. And create a link for it.
I think you might be mixing up your imports there, James.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was. And also, I kind of misspelled this. My cats. My cat, capital C, just to be correct with that. Yeah, this needs to be from React. Cool. So let's go ahead in my app.js and render this, create a route for this component. Now, you might run into, just think about, do I want this to be a protected route or not? Well, this is going to require like the before action in my cats controller. Remember, we have the before action where we want to authenticate the user. So that's on the back end. But that should help me, also be like, oh, this should probably be protected on the front end as well. Because we're going to need to be logged in to see this page. And it makes sense because different users could use this app and they're going to like different cats. Go ahead and create a path for this. Give it to my cats. I'm not sure if I actually imported that. If I wanted to create a link for this, I could just do this in the layout. Let's just do it right here. To my cats. Okay, so something that can happen when you rename component or file, your imports can get messed up. So right now I'm getting this error. can't find file my cats. So let's go to my app.js. Change that to a capital C. So it matches the file name. There we go. Now I can go to my cats. And there we go. There's that component. If you wanted to, in my layout, I could, maybe I don't want to show these links if I'm not authenticated. So I could do something like that for every link that I need to be logged in. Fragment all that, get rid of that. You have like a lot of control in like what you show and what you don't. I can just check if I'm authenticated. If I am, I'll render these routes. If not, I won't, but I'll always render the public route because I don't need to be logged in for that one. So then if I log in, I just get like the public one, my register and login. And then when I log in, then I can get those other routes there. Just depends. It's not to say you don't want to show links that you need to be logged into, because maybe that can be like kind of like some clickbait, like, oh, click here to view this, and then you have to like sign up. So I'm not saying you need to hide your links if you're not authenticated, but you might, if you want to, you can. All right. So we have this component just rendering. So let's now do kind of similar things, set cats, state. We'll set this as an empty array. Effect. This on mount. I can just call this get cats and get cats. All right, for this one, I believe we do not have a API call set up. So let's need API call. So let's go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to go to my routes file. This is kind of going to be a little bit of a custom one. It's not going to be a standard one. So I'm going to have to I'm going to manually do this. So this is going to be a get request to, let's call it my cats. That's going to take us to the cats controller. And then inside of there, we'll make a my cats method. And then we can go to the cats controller and define that method. Def my cats. Render JSON. User dot liked cats. And we want to need to pass it the array of like cats. So that's our current user. Liked underscore cats. Remember, we're calling this before action authenticate user. So we're going to have current user in all of these methods. if there was a method you did not want to authenticate, you can do an accept. Yo. Accept. And then we could have like a yo method in here. Let me just quickly define this in the routes so we can go test it out. Get yo to cats yo. So this one I should be able to go to like localhost 3001 API /yo. Public. But I can't go to like my cats because that one's protected. So we can decide which ones we do. We can have ones that are public that you don't need to be authenticated. i.e. and what this really means is you don't have to pass it that token that we were looking at earlier, that access token. So now we have this my cats set up. So we can now go to my cats.js. So now we have this. Let's make this async. Let's throw this in a try catch. Response or the const response equals await axios.get. API /my cats. Set cats res.data. And then down here, we'll just do some code block. JSON.stringify cats. So it's a quick way to check that this is working. Let's just refresh one more time. So we're getting an error. We're getting a 500 internal server error. So whenever you see a 500 error, go check your method or your server. So undefined method like cats for user. Let's go look at that one. So that is in line 24. User dot. Okay, so it's saying this method is undefined. So this is a method I defined in my user class. So I need to go to my user, the RB file. Liked, oh, I guess I called it liked cats. So I had called it liked here, but I was calling it like cats in the method. So I need to change one of them. I'll change it here. So that matches that call. Refresh. Getting another 500 error. So this is a different error, and this is where my checking. So the alert is nice because it's at least just saying, hey, you know, an error occurred, but it's very unuseful other than that. where I'm really going to get the advice is from my server for the, especially for the 500 errors. So now I have a different error, undefined method JSON for my cats controller, line 24 once again. So let's go back there. I forgot the semicolon. Refresh. There we go. And I can see like, okay, so there's ID 1, ID 4, I'm just gonna ID 5, 13, etc. I'm gonna go back home. ID 1, 13, 4, see how those are in this array of like cats. So the my cats are gonna be the ones that I have liked. Cool. So what time is it? I want to I want to kind of show you something just as another explanation of class methods and instance methods with Ruby. Let's just write this another way. So I'm going to go back to my cats controller. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to comment this out. Maybe this might help explain the difference or help illustrate the difference between instance methods and class methods. So like cats here is a class method. Because I'm calling like cats on the user model. Let's switch this up though. Let's do this a different way. Right here, like cats is a instance method. And all of user. So here I'm calling capital U user.LikeCats. That's, I'm calling this method on the class. Here I'm using device token auth, the current user object, and I'm calling LikeCats on that. Current user is actually, it's a instance of the user class. It's the current logged in user. So this is a instance of this user class. So if I wanted to then go define this method like cats, I need to do that. I'll just, this one is a class method. Instance method here. So it's a class method that, you know, uses self in the definition. In an instance method, I don't use the self keyword. I have like cats. Notice how these have the same name. They are two different methods. Let's do this. IDs. I'm going to do something similar. That I'm doing in the above one. And that's going to be the same. Sorry, that wouldn't be ID, that would be liked cats. Okay, so let's first of all, let's just see if this works. That's always a good thing to do. See if it works before we explain it. Now it should, if I look at my cats controller, I just commented out this one and now I'm using this method. So the path should be the same. So I don't need to do anything on the front end. So I'm just going to refresh, checking if logged in or not. What am I doing here? Looks like I'm like in an infinite loop. Let's log in. Okay, it definitely does not like this. All right. Let me just restart my server. All right. Now we're getting into another error. Now this is actually one you might have seen. Has anyone seen this error before? You're trying to start a server and it says one's running, but you're like, no, I don't see a server running. This can sometimes happen. I mean, if you saw it, like normally closing out your terminal should quit your server, but sometimes it doesn't. So what I need to do is I kind of need to manually go in and quit this server. And I always have to Google how to do this. Quit Rails server. I always can never remember the command. It's generally like one that kills all of them. But this one, there is a command that kills all of them. This one's says I want to find the PID of the thing that's running so I can run this command. Oh gosh, that's what. Those all the same. I'm going to stop my React server. Maybe some of those are them. Oh wait, I want to see what's running on 3000 now. Cool. So I can find that PID. And then I can just say kill 9 and then the PID. There's a better command that destroys all of these. 64173. I run that command again now. That's no longer running. And yeah, those other ones, the 3000, that was my React server. So if I start, now it's not running anything because I closed that. If I start up my React server again, and then run this command again on port 3000. There's all the React stuff. Port 3001, nothing going on there. So let's try running this again. Rails server HP 3001. And there we go. I feel like this comes up like once every couple months. So it's not memorizing how to like this command. This is why I can never memorize it because I don't use it enough, but just remember, you'll find it on Google. Error occurred logging in user. Oh my gosh. Oh. That's fine. So let's try to log in. And yeah, I'm getting that same error. User RB31. I don't know why this is causing an infinite loop, it looks like. I don't know why that's logging out. Let's just put self here. I'm gonna actually do a P. I'm gonna have to do this again. Roll 9. Give it this number. 7963. Okay, that's not my real server. Okay. I thought I did that. Oh, I think I killed my React stuff. 513. Restart my Rails server. Restart my React server. What is going on here? That was a really strange error. Stack level too deep. So a stack level too deep, it's a stack overflow error. That's the name, stack overflow. This is definitely like a infinite loop somehow is going on here. So it seems to, because when you make function calls, they just get stacked on top of each other. So if you get into an infinite loop, it probably won't go on forever. You'll run out of memory and you'll get a stack overflow error or stack level too deep. So that's what we're getting here. And I have no idea why this is doing this. So it's happening on my login page. See if I'm trying to log in. Okay, so let me go back to my cats controller. Let me just get this. I'm just going to go back to the way it was just to see if I can get it working again. We have to kill this thing again. So I'll list the PID. So it's like there's a couple of them. So I'll go ahead and stop those. 80352. 5703. Is that not one? 807. 80374. Oh, they said deleted them all. Okay. Gonna refresh. Log in my cats. Undefined method empty for nil class user 24. User 24. I wonder if this is breaking it. This is broken somewhere. So I'm just going back to my style of, get it working. So once again, undefined method empty for nil class. So that's in my user 24. User 24, it's thinking this IDs is empty. Okay, let's do a binding dot pry right here. This is really weird because this was working like 30 minutes ago. Now it's not. Okay, so now I'm in my pry. Now I can look at my current user. There's my current user dot liked cats. It's right there. Am I insane? I have no, what the hell is happening? Why is it making me do this? I mean, that's really weird because we did really see it work like this. And then I added. Yeah, this, okay. Let's see if this is working. Log in. Oh, I'm still on my pry. I need to get out of my pry. Let's log in. There we go. My cats. I'm in my pry still, so I can. Let's just call this method right here. I can call that, and then so there it is. So now it's grabbing it. That is so weird. I have no idea because why it's making me access that as a hash now. That's not it. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. What time is it? we're out of time. Well, let's just try this one more time. I feel like okay, cool. That's giving us back null. So it's no longer throwing that stack error. So where I was going with this is, so now we're calling this method. So let's just put self. Let's see if this freaks out. That is crazy. All right, we're just gonna stop it here. I'll look at this at lunch and then explain what was going on after. I really don't know what's going on here. I've never like this call stack too deep. I have not seen this like this in Rails. So this is weird for me. So yeah, let's go ahead. I will push the working code up to GitHub. But yeah, let's take a break. Let's take lunch and let's come back at 2 o'clock. Sorry about that. This is really weird. So this is the weird part right here. Cool. Have a good lunch, everyone. I'm going to bang my head against the wall on this one for the next little bit.
Good luck, James.
Thank you.